Gold and silver are some of the oldest and best known sources of wealth in history, and their popularity has not waned, which is evident by their current market prices. Joining me today to talk about these assets and a new way to generate income from them is ABC Bullion General Manager Jordan Eliseo. Jordan, thanks for being with us today.
My pleasure, Jason. Looking forward to the conversation.
What's the status of gold and silver as an investment class at present, including the current levels of demand?
2025 has been a near record year for both metals. So in gold's case, prices are up around 30% in Australian dollar terms. In US dollars, it's done even better. Gold's having I think its best year since 1979 so far. Silver has actually outperformed gold up well over 40% now. So both assets have very much become sort of go-to flavors of the month, for want of a better term. And that's being seen in pretty much record demand, both for physical bars and coins and other ways to access precious metals in a portfolio.
Gold is just over $5,500 per ounce at the moment, and given those market conditions you just described, does that bode well for investors in gold?
Well, look, they certainly have over the last few years in particular, and really the bull market in precious metals, the secular bull market, dates back to the turn of the century. Back in the year 2000, an ounce of gold was, in Australian dollar terms, less than $500. Obviously here we are today, closer to $5,700. So it's been an extraordinary rally over that time period. Substantially outperforming shares, cash, bonds, property, etc. If we take a sort of look forward and the potential tailwinds or headwinds for gold, I think on balance, most commentators expect that this bull market will continue, even though there will be pullbacks along the way, and gold is not going to, deliver annual returns of 30% year in, year out. Most recently, couple of weeks ago, we saw Morgan Stanley, their chief investment officer, talk about investors maybe wanting to have even up to a 20% allocation to gold in their portfolios, rather than having a traditional 60-40 split of equities and bonds. He was more talking about a 60-20-20, where effectively 20% of the fixed income would be substituted for gold. So I think when you've got really sort of, let's call them blue chip, well-respected investment houses talking that way, plus you've got central banks buying at the levels they are, and all of the traditional consumer markets for gold in Asia, in the Middle East, in the subcontinent, all of those areas are also sort of firing on all cylinders, as it were. So the demand outlook is very positive, and with that in mind, I think the expectation is this bull market will continue, even if there will be pullbacks along the way.
You mentioned that gold has been in a bull market for more than 20 years. Does that mean there's been no decline in the value of gold in that time?
So between 2011 and 2015, there was a decent pullback, sort of cyclical bear market within the sort of structural bull. In US dollar terms, prices pulled back around 35%. In Aussie dollar terms, the pullback was far more limited, and that was because of the interplay with the currency. And so that's one of the features that Australian dollar investors, including SMSF trustees, retirees in the local market, tend to benefit from, is that the Australian dollar and the US dollar, they obviously have their own relationship, and that can sometimes smooth out the Aussie dollar gold price return that investors get. And obviously we trade in Australian dollars with our clients, and that currency element is one of the attributes people are looking for and looking at when they're investing in gold here in Australia. So whilst there's been this long-term bull market in precious metals, and gold in particular, there are corrections along the way. Gold's volatility is at an absolute level is quite similar to that of the equity market. There's probably two important points to clarify there, though. And volatility is a funny thing, because no one complains when the asset they own is volatile to the upside. We all just get worried when it's volatile to the downside. And when you look at gold, its biggest and its most profound moves, its most volatile moves, actually tend to be to the upside, which is the exact opposite of the equity market. When the equity market really has volatile movements, normally that's a sell-off. The other thing with gold, as it relates to its volatility and its relationship with equities and in the context of a whole portfolio is that it's traditionally been quite uncorrelated to the equity market, especially when the equity market sells off. And that's why so many investors like to own gold as part of a diversified portfolio, because in periods where equities are pulling back, gold tends to be the asset that does very well and brings that nice balance at a portfolio level.
Having an allocation to gold means having to buy the asset and hold it, which is not an unfamiliar concept to many SMSF investors who own property. But does that whole process deter some people from buying gold?
Look, there's definitely an education process involved in the sense that if you're buying shares or listed assets, it's just a number on a screen and it sits within a brokerage account, and so there's no real thought that needs to go into the storage of a physical asset, because it's not a physical asset in that context. With gold, if you're buying a physical item that you want to put in a vault, then yes, obviously there are some things to work through. But organisations like ours, and we're obviously not the only one in Australia, we've been running since the 1970s. We've offered vaulting solutions for decades as well. So clients can buy bullion with us and either store it in a wholesale bullion vault or in private vaults, and all of the reporting, market value, weight, all of the things that you need to give to your SMSF auditor, for example, at the end of the financial year, all of those reports can be produced very easily. It's sort of a very standard process. So it is quite easy to incorporate gold into a portfolio, both when buying a physical item that needs to sit on a shelf somewhere, but also the way the market is trending, and we've very much been at the forefront of this, is offering pooled accounts, digital gold products. So we offer really a couple of key pooled accounts for SMSF trustees. One of them is called the ABC Bullion Gold Saver, which we launched many years ago. And that allows people to dollar cost average their way into gold on either a weekly or fortnightly or monthly basis. That's proved exceptionally popular. There's no storage fees. All of the reporting is included. And more recently, we actually launched a decumulation plan very much targeted towards retirees or pre-retirees who want access to precious metals in their portfolio. They're very well aware of the attributes that gold can bring, that ability to contribute to growth, the ability to help stabilize a portfolio, the inflation hedge elements, all of that. But what they also want is regular cash flow from their investments. And one of the beauties of gold is it is exceptionally liquid. If today is a normal day on the Australian Stock Exchange, it might do somewhere in the vicinity of, I believe, about $8 to $10 billion in turnover. The global gold market will do well over 150 billion US in turnover today. So it's exceptionally liquid, which means it's very easy to turn into cash in small fractional amounts. So people that are using our decumulation plan are making an initial investment into gold or silver. They can choose, and that initial investment is as little as $25,000. Then at the same time, what they're doing is they're saying, ABC Bullion, we would like to receive on a monthly basis a fixed amount of cash flow sent back to our nominated bank account, and that cash flow payment can be as little as $500 a month. And all we're doing very simply in the background is at the end of each calendar month, we just buy back a fractional amount of gold or silver out of that client's account based on the price at the end of the month, and we use that to fund the cash flow payment to the client. So it's not income per se, but want to be very clear on that. But it is cash flow that can be very easily accessed as long as there is a weight of metal sitting in that client's decumulation account.
With that gold accumulation plan, it's not an annuity, but has an annuity-style approach to invested capital. But there are some key differences from my understanding around things like lock-in periods and access to the underlying capital, which you don't get with an annuity. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So look, we wanted to keep it exceptionally simple. So and you're absolutely right. It's not an annuity per se, but the things that we wanted to keep simple for clients. Number one, there is no lock-in period. So again, let's use an example where somebody puts that minimum in, that $25,000, and maybe they say, I only want $500. I want $500 a month back from that payment. A year later, they change their mind. They say, I want to sell out of everything. I just want to take my money back. no problem. You just call us up or log into your account online, sell the whole lot. So you're not locked in for any period whatsoever. The dollar value of that you want sent back to you is completely flexible as well. So you might start at $500 a month, and 6 months from now or a year from now, you might want to change it to 1,000. That's no problem at all. You will just change the amount at the next monthly payment. Clients can also top up as well. So they might start with $25,000 or $50,000. They might think, actually, I want a higher allocation to gold in my portfolio, so I'll make another investment into the product and effectively boost my balance. So all of those features we think are really important. From my point of view, simplicity is key, and simplicity, I think, for any investment solution, is a real strength. Particularly in a world that's getting more complex. The easier and the simpler investment solutions are for people, then the more attractive they're going to be.
If you'd like to know more about bullion as an investment and the recently launched gold accumulation plan, please visit abcbullion.com.au. Jordan, thanks so much for your time.
It's been a real pleasure.